And hello to everybody. It's wonderful to be here again on the first Sunday in Advent. And I'm glad that Reverend Ann can have a couple of weeks off and get renewed and revitalized. I'm still not used to my hair. I'm growing my hair out and it's doing all crazy, wonderful things. But I'll try and keep it in check here. All right. So first Sunday in Advent, new beginnings, isn't it? We are creatures of new beginnings, human beings. We're really happy with just the status quo. We're kind of future-oriented species in general, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. And I was along those lines. It's funny how when you think of a certain thought, it'll pop up elsewhere. I was reading about Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters back in the 60s and how they travel around on the bus that they painted in psychedelic colors and the electric Kool-Aid acid test and all that stuff. Anyway, the name of the bus was, guess what? Further. There's always more to discover. There's always further exploration, right? We are impelled to new ways and new possibilities. That's part of our humanness, and it can cause us some problems sometimes, but it can also yield great benefits. And again, I'll discuss that. But for case in point, I want you to think about heaven for a moment. At least the conventional understanding of heaven, right? It's endless joy, isn't it? It's beauty. You're on a cloud. There's no pain. Nothing really changes. You know, there's harps and angels and all kinds of nice stuff like that. Now imagine after about 2 weeks, you'd be ready to leave, wouldn't you? After all that kind of joy forever, nothing really happening. I need something new. It'll get me off of this cloud. And that's the human condition, I think, is that we want heaven, but we're not sure we'd be satisfied with it if we actually got there. And I'm talking about a conventional understanding of heaven. I'll offer another view of what heaven might be. But it's famous, you know, John Milton wrote Paradise Lost, and they say that Satan got all the best lines, right? The holy ones were kind of boring, but the devil had some cool things going on. It's like Billy Joel said, I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners have much more fun. Only the good die young. So 270 years ago, Alexander Pope, the English poet, wrote this in his essay on man. He said, "Hope springs eternal in the human breast." And if you've never realized where that phrase comes from, it comes from his poem. Hope springs eternal in the human breast. And then he goes on to say, man never is, but always to be blessed. So it's the idea that we're always moving on to find a new and better thing. We're not there yet, right? Man never is, but always to be blessed. And there's a good side to that, and there's a seemingly bad side to that, and there's also, in my mind, a third side to that. Can you have three sides to a thing? Yes, you can. Of course you can. A third way. The good side. Well, you tell me. What's the good side? Anybody want to put something down in the chat? What's the good side of this endless new possibility? What does it create within us? What does it show that we are as human beings? Let me see if we got any responses here. And I'll give you some too. Hope springs eternal. Yeah. Well, the good sides that I'm aware of is curiosity, endless teachability, right? There's always something new, inventiveness, creativity, all the amazing things that human beings have created over the years, whether it be in science or in the arts, in music, even just creating with fabric, right? All the wonderful ways. This is the good side of this endlessly moving on further. Downside is restlessness, never satisfied, driven but unfulfilled, right? Never happy with just being. There's got to be something else. But I think there's a combination of the two, which is where it's really at. The great good news is that both are okay, right? It's okay to be curious and restless. They can be married together so that we have something truly creative. It's part of the conundrum of being alive, if you like, the human condition. I read a book many years ago by Philip Kapleau called The Three Pillars of Zen, and I love the title. The three pillars of Zen are great faith, which is our daily word today. Second pillar is great doubt. And then the third pillar is great persistence. And really, these are the three ways again. The great faith in the fact that I've got this creative impulse within me. I've got the Christ within me. Great doubt, because I'm always wondering, how exactly does that work? How do I make that apparent in my life? And then great persistence in keeping on, further on, until I realize the full integration of the two, right? Of great faith and great doubt coming together as holism within myself. The Way Show has always counseled to be in the world, but not of the world, right? To be fully human, as they call Jesus, but also fully divine. And in Unity, we claim that too. We are fully human, but we're also fully divine. And the peace, the consciousness of heaven is found, true heaven is found in the integration of those two coming together as one. And it's never boring. I want to read from St. Paul because he elucidated this in the book of Colossians. This is chapter 1, verses 24 to 27. Let me read it, and then we'll unpack it just a little bit. He says this: "It is now my joy to suffer for you, for the sake of Christ's body, the church. I am completing what still remains for Christ to suffer in my own person. I became a servant of the church by virtue of the task assigned me by God for your benefit, to put God's word into full effect. That secret purpose hidden for long ages and through many generations, but now disclosed to God's people. To them, he chose to make known what a wealth of glory is offered to the Gentiles in this secret purpose. Christ in you, the hope of glory." Now that's a powerful, powerful passage, isn't it? And it starts off with, I'm suffering here, as we all are in a human condition, and I'm struggling, I'm restless. I'm going through a difficult time, perhaps. It's 2020, it's COVID. I'm suffering because, but I know that there's a higher purpose than just suffering. We don't just suffer for suffering's sake. There's a purpose for the suffering, for the opening, as we talked about last week, being broken open to something new. And that suffering, that willingness to go through it, not to avoid it, to go through it, is the secret of the revealing of the greater truth, right? A secret revealed, right? The promise now disclosed, he says, to all who are ready. So my question is, today, the first day of Advent, are you ready? And I'm switching to the chat room, see how many people are ready. Are you ready? We are resilient and strong, yes. Teresa likes faith, doubt, and persistence, yes. How many people are ready? I just need one to say yes, and then we'll move on. Ready, there we go. All right, moving on. Great, thank you. Thank you very much. So here we go. It's the wealth of glory. Think about that. The wealth of glory, the glorious realization of the good news, right? The wealth of glory, the fulfillment or completeness of marrying the two together, the endless creativity and the endless struggle coming together. And I realize, that's why I'm having to go through this, because it's a recognition of Christ in me, the hope of glory, right? Christ in me, the hope of glory. The Christ in us, as we teach in Unity, is the what? The stillness, the passion, the completeness, the wholeness. Get the hair out of the way. So the Christ in us is that immediate understanding that all is well, right? Deep down, we've all had inklings of it. And it's described most beautifully in one of my favorite mystics. His name was Thomas Traherne. He was a metaphysical poet in the 17th century. And he wrote a beautiful mystical treatise called Centuries of Meditations that was lost, actually, or nobody really knew about it until it was published in about 1903. And since then, it's become quite famous in mystical literature. And I want to read it. It's a fairly lengthy passage, but it'll go quick, I think. And it's a description from his consciousness of this Christed nature come down to earth, the heavenly kingdom. And if the conventional view of heaven was a bit boring, you know, I've had enough of those clouds and those harps, then this vision, I think, is not boring at all. And it's right here. It's infused into every single thing, every place we are, right here in Arlington, Fort Worth, wherever we're listening from. It's here right now. So this is what he says. He was just walking down the street and he said, the corn was orient and immortal wheat, which never should be reaped or should never be sown. I thought it stood for everlasting to everlasting. The dust and stones of the street were as precious as gold. The gates were at first the end of the world. The green trees, when I saw them first through one of the gates, transported and ravished me. Their sweetness and unusual beauty made me made my heart to leap, and almost mad with ecstasy. They were such strange and wonderful things. The men, oh, what venerable and revered creatures did the aged seem, immortal cherubims, and young men glittering and sparkling angels, and women strange and seraphic pieces of life and beauty. Boys and girls tumbling in the street and playing were moving jewels. I knew not that they were born or should ever die, but all things abided eternally as they were in their proper places. Eternity was manifest in the light of the day, and something infinite beyond everything appeared, which talked to my expectations and moved my desires. The city seemed like Eden, or to be built in heaven. The streets were mine, the temple was mine, the people were mine, their clothes and gold and silver were mine, as much as their sparkling eyes, fair skins, and ruddy faces. The skies were mine, and so were the sun and moon and stars, and all the world was mine, and I the only spectator and enjoyer of it. I knew no churlish proprieties or bonds, no divisions, but all proprieties and divisions and bonds were mine, all treasures and the possessions of them, so that with much ado I was corrupted and made to learn the dirty devices of this world, which now I unlearn and become, as it were, a little child again, that I may enter into the kingdom of heaven. Wow. That's quite a revelation, isn't it? Quite an awareness of the fact that the beauty is all around us, that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we're glowing with light and energy and power. And everything was his because he was speaking not from himself anymore. He was speaking from the Christ within him. So there was only one, right? There's only one of us here. We are one with that knowledge. And I think we've all, in varied degrees, had an inkling of that mystic vision. Otherwise, we probably wouldn't be in unity, wouldn't be on the spiritual path. But we've got an idea of how wonderful that is. But then, of course, after the ecstasy, the laundry. It's a famous saying, isn't it? But I love it. And it's so true. There's the marrying, Christ in you, the hope of glory. The glory is not quite apparent on a day-to-day basis, but now I've got work to do to integrate the two together, right? To integrate that, to know that the Christ allows me to have a hope of glory, an expectation of the good flowing. I am a spiritual being and I'm living a human experience. Help me, Lord, to connect the two, right? So that there's no gap. I live as Jesus did, the seamless life, where my humanness and my divinity come together as one, in full joy, in full opportunity to care for others, and in full vigor and ability to do this work. Then we become curious, excited, restless, but willing to do the work that is ours to do this day. Let me stop and see if we got any other comments on that we need to talk about. All, Teresa, all of nature, all of the universe, all God and heaven right now, right? Right now. Nothing to be put off till later. There's no further. The further is already here, right? But our humanness says further. Our spirit says, no, it's here now. The work is, though, integrated in that. You know, they say there's two paths, right? There's the immediate path of Kensho, of awakening, of immediate Satori. And people like Adyashanti, the great teacher, talks about that there's nothing to do except realize who you already are. And then there's the step-by-step approach of some teachings where you have to go through all the various steps and programs to reach the reality that you're looking for. And maybe both are true. You know, there's moments where you break through and how am I doing for time here? When you break through and you know everything's one. And then there's other times when you need to pursue the steps and keep going. The Hasidic rabbi and teacher Nachman of Breslov, he wrote this. He said, Gewalt, my God, never give up hope. There is no despair. I love that. My God, don't give up. There is only this possibility to move forward. There's no despair. Never give up hope. So that is our work on the process to Christedness, our work through Advent 2020, right? Over the next 4 weeks, we know the truth that the Christ is here, Christ in me, Christ in you, but we're now going to live it. We're now going to put it into practice. So, as we always do in Unity, we like to be practical about it. And so the question becomes, well, how? Okay. So how do we do it? I'm offering 7 things we can do over the next few weeks as we go towards Christmas. And I'm going to be kind to you today. There will be no pop quiz, okay? It's okay. You don't have to memorize this right now. But I'd like you to pay attention, if you can, for those 7 and see if they resonate with you. And we'll have a quick check-in before we go into the meditation to see which ones resonated the most for you, okay? So here we go. 7 things we can do to integrate, to bring that restlessness and that future think, and that acknowledge that it's all here right now together. So we're really, as I like to say, cooking with gas. So number 1, know who you are in truth, not your role, not something that your body is or your mind is, but who are you in truth, right? Who am I? Anybody want to stab at that? Who am I? Who are you? Who are you? Who are you today? I am divine. I'll go with that. Exactly. I am divine. So know who you are. Know the truth of you. Don't get lost in your roles. You have all these roles: father, mother, worker, a certain age, a certain role, a certain class, a certain color. But these are all things you have, but they're not the essence of you. You are the Christ. You are divine. Remember that. Number 2, claim you're good. Claim that truth. You're worthy to receive it. Some of us know it to be true intellectually, but we're not claiming it. So dare to claim it. Dare to know that. Dare to affirm that today. Number 3, bloom where you are planted. I think this is exceedingly important because you only have here and now, right? So bloom where you're planted. Otherwise, you're always in nostalgia, wishing it could be something else, another way, a different day, or whatever. No, I know this to be so true for myself that I need to bloom where I'm planted. Number 4, don't put off anything that you could do today, right? It's easy to say, oh, well, I'll handle that later or whatever. There is no later, right? There's only now. If there's somebody you hadn't said that you love for a while, say it today, that you love that person. If there's something that's impelling you to convey to another, do it today, because you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So don't put it off, right? Do it today. Number 5, in line with that, send the message of now to every part of you. Send it to your body. You know, sometimes I don't feel like exercising, and then I send the message of now to my body and say, now is the time. Get out there, do something, exercise, keeps you young. Send that message of now to your emotions. Now is the time to forgive. Now is the time to let go. Now is the time to say I love you to someone, including yourself. Send that message of now to your mind, because the mind can only be filled with one thing at a time. So send it something good, right? Choose to claim you're good by sending that message right now of the Christ in you, your hope of glory. And send that message to your whole being, that you are whole, you are complete, you are worthy, you are beautiful. I send that message to myself right now. What was that? 5? 6, commit to unfoldment. And this is important. It's a commitment. I know there's work to be done, and I commit to it, right? Because once you commit, I think it was Goethe that said that, once you commit to something, once you have that bold vision, and I'm willing to commit to Christ in me, the hope of glory, then energy flows to you that enables you to carry on, to do the work that is yours to do, to realize the truth for you. Commit to unfoldment, to the work that it takes. And then 7, finally, take a tip from last week. Last week we talked about thanks living. Give thanks, right? I always like to do this before and after, actually, to give thanks in advance and to give thanks in the middle and to give thanks at the end. It's always good. So there's our message today. I hope there was something in there for you. This marrying of the two seeming aspects of our lives, not to be lost thinking hope springs eternal, but I'll never get there. But realize, yes, you already are there, but there's still work to be done in fully realizing that in every pore and aspect and synapse and nitty gritty bit of who you are in truth. So here we are. Hope springs eternal because we are eternal beings of love and possibility. And will you affirm with me as we end this, and we'll take it into meditation, Christ in me, my hope of glory. Together, Christ in me, my hope of glory. And let's do a check-in on the chat before we meditate. Ready to unfold with grace, ease, love, and light. I love that. Grateful and thankful. Committed to unfoldment. Christ in me, my hope of glory. Don't put off anything. Do it today. Amen. So let's take that into meditation. I invite you to get comfortable in your seat. Maybe close your eyes if that feels right. Keep your back straight. Breathe nice and evenly, easily. Get comfortable in this body-mind that our spirit inhabits. Christ in me, my hope of glory. What does it mean to have the Christ in me? To have that super abundant energy of Jesus and the Buddha and all the other great way showers. To have all the divine qualities of God, of love, forgiveness, peace, possibility, joy, wisdom, strength. to have eternity at the heart of who we are. Radiance, Christ in me. We claim all those beautiful qualities, those energies demonstrated by the way showers. They could be demonstrated in us too. We are that. Christ in me. My hope of glory. In spite of all the various issues, circumstances, happenings going on around me and within me, all my struggles, all my humanness, in spite of 2020, in spite of uncertainty, in spite of fear and hurt, right in the midst of those things, the Christ is my hope of glory. The Christ shines in all those seemingly difficult qualities. They came for a reason. They came to be integrated, to be understood, to be released. So that all that's left is glory, effulgent power, manifest joy, generosity of love, the ability to succeed. All these are aspects of glory. So as we go into a moment of silence now, let that be your affirmation. Christ in me, my hope of glory. And so, as Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, declared in his 93rd year, I fairly sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth with a mighty faith to do the things that are mine to do this day. And we affirm that too for ourselves, that we sizzle with zeal and enthusiasm and spring forth on this first day of Advent with a mighty faith to do the things that are ours to do this day. And with the Christ in us, we cannot fail. And so it is. Amen.